You might be loving what Arsenal are doing right now, but what if I told you that this team could get even better with only just one addition next summer at Arsenal? It's an interesting piece of analysis. It's not actually even analysis, it's just pure speculation. But welcome back to the Laurence McKenna Football Channel, where we love to speculate, but we also love to dream. Imagine what could happen in football. So if you enjoy that as well, hit the subscribe button. It's on one side or the other. Declan Rice is available allegedly this summer, and for some time there have been a lot of people sniffing around, should we say, Declan. What he brings to a side is so incredibly dynamic and also so rare for a lot of modern footballers, at least in terms of the English set of players, that he's incredibly desirable, not only to Arsenal, but also to Chelsea, allegedly to Man City as well, and a couple of other top European sides. But you'd imagine that Declan wants to stay within the Premier League, especially after his comments with the England squad, where he said, it's nice to have a career where, you stay at a club and you're very loyal and all these kind of things, but I also want to look back at my trophy cabinet and know that I've won something. And he definitely alluded to competing in the Champions League, or competing at least at the very top level. And I don't think anyone at West Ham can begrudge him to want to do that, because currently the club is kind of stuttering. I mean, that's probably an understatement. The club is kind of stuttering. It's quite tricky to work out where they're going. And clearly, it's tricky for them to attract the very top of the top talent. Declan's probably hanging around with a lot of other people as well who are having a good time at their club. He's going to England camps, seeing Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mason Mount, just all these other young English, Reece James, all these other young English guys that he's close friends with, some of them from London. And a lot of them are saying, hey, I'm having a good time at my club. What are you doing right now? Or I'm progressing under X. What are you doing right now? I'm being coached by Y. What are you doing right now? And now, I'm not saying that every footballer, therefore, has to go out there and achieve the very zenith of every Champions League they could ever win. But they want a career that seems sort of decorated, should we say. And I think Declan wants that, which is why Arsenal would be very interested in him this summer. I mean, look at their midfield at the moment, right? The two guys that are being so dominant and being so brilliant for them this year are at the peak of their midfield careers. But we also understand how quickly that can change within the Premier League, and how quickly, should we say, people can move on in terms of what they need in terms of the personnel in the Premier League. And Arteta is an incredibly perceptive manager, someone who clearly has an incredible roadmap for this Arsenal team. It goes much beyond where he is right now. And I'd imagine even he thinks he's a little further ahead of it than maybe even the coaching staff could have imagined. But still, here we are. And these guys are trying to plan for replacing a 29-year-old and a 30-year-old. Look at other teams in the Premier League right now. They love having some experience, and I think that's great. Liverpool have tried to have that balance of Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, Fabinho, insert youth here. And there's times where that's working, and there's times where it's not as well. So I think stuff like that's really important, to work out how you're going to transition while you're at the top and sustain some of this success. It can't just be dribs and drabs, because I think that, especially in modern football, for a lot of characters, they want sustained success. They aren't sure where Chelsea are going to finish. They aren't sure where West Ham's going to finish. If Arsenal can say, hey, look, we've got a great manager, we've got a great young squad, we've got a great culture, we're in the right city that you want to be in, and we've got great marketing potential opportunities, all these kind of things, then great, bring Declan Rice. And Declan Rice will add a lot to this team, either alongside a Thomas Partey or alongside a Granit Xhaka. I think personally, a lot of people would like to see it that he will replace one or the other. Partey is a difficult one, because there might be other reasons why Partey might be in the squad immediately. He might not be in the squad immediately. And Xhaka has had a redemption arc at Arsenal, but at the same time, there are questions over both of these guys. I get it. You can have really great seasons, but there are questions over whether consistently they can be there. And I'm not throwing shade here at all. What I'm really just saying is, in the long run, how much longer do these guys have at the very, very top level? And how great would it be to bring in someone like Declan Rice, who's dynamic on the ball, great at tackling, really good at breaking the play up, really great at carrying the ball. Over the last couple of seasons, he's been one of the top ball carriers in the Premier League. He's also been one of the top tacklers. He's also been one of the more exciting players in terms of providing for other people, short passes that he can play. I like it. By the way, when I was doing that what I meant by that was, this guy likes playing short, intricate passes, and it makes for fun games, because there's lots of players around that he can sort of share the ball with, if you like. And I like that. What I also love is that when you look at, say, his intricate passing with other West Ham players, he's clearly improving some of these guys. He's clearly the focal point of the side. He started out as a centre back, moved into, I think you could call him like a very deep lying central defensive midfielder or someone who would sit in between the two centre backs. And then since then, he's basically gone on to be the guy that is just a defensive midfielder in the team, the guy who dictates quite a lot. And there's a lot of really great positions that he takes up to make it easier for his teammates, but also to make it easier when he then just plays a short pass. He very rarely plays himself into danger. He's very good at managing possession. He's very good at bringing the rest of the team up with him. So he lays quite deep, brings the side up. And you can imagine a team that's more dominant than West Ham, he'd be even better at that, progressing the ball. I'd imagine that there's also a lot of excitement with how he could combine, having seen what Granit Xhaka and Partey do, with the likes of Martin Odegaard and the other guys within that kind of area. If you were to have a Vieira on the field, if you were to, let Declan Rice drift a little bit wide like he did with England, or if you were to let him just roam around and do whatever he needed to do alongside a Thomas Partey or alongside a Granit Xhaka, I'd imagine a few of you probably have your preferences, probably based on what your personal preference is over football, like whether you want to see Xhaka in the side or whether you want to see Partey in the side, whether you think Partey will make a better partner or whether you think the better partner is Xhaka. Like, there's so many different ways you could play this, and it's not like they have to sell one to bring in another. So just bring in Declan Rice and you've got a clear successor when A, you need some depth within the team, but B, you also want to make a great argument for we need to sustain this success. And not only that, but he creates loads of goal opportunities as well. Very often he's seen a lot higher up the field, great in combination play with not exactly a number 10, but like those attacking midfielders, and having someone else that can push up, be a surprising combination, create overloads in central but also wide areas will be great for Arsenal to have. Now, you might be saying, hey, Arsenal already possess a lot of this. But I think Declan Rice can probably improve on what Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey are doing. He's young, he's English, which obviously counts towards a great quota as well, and he's also going to be dedicated to a team for at least the next 5, 6, possibly even 7 seasons if they stay in the Champions League, which is what he wants, and if they can sustain success within a young squad and challenge at the top. Arsenal have proven they're ahead of their schedule already. That's great, sure. But if you're already ahead of your schedule, you then need to solidify that. You don't want to slip backwards, have a few people doubt themselves, and then go back behind, possibly slip below or back in where you actually wanted to be because people's confidence has gone. You also want to bring in hungry players like clearly Declan Rice is. Someone who won't have won the Premier League before, someone who won't have won very much, I'd imagine, in his career so far, and someone who's also hungry to learn from these other players, someone who wants to be part of a culture like this, someone who's had a really solid career under some really solid managers and frankly, has progressed really quickly at West Ham under a really good defensive midfield coach like David Moyes. David Moyes clearly understands that position really well and would have given him some really great insight. But let's be honest, like Arteta is a truly progressive coach. Arteta, we don't really know what the very peak of this guy's career is because he's only really 40 years old. Like, in terms of coaching at Arsenal, you're going to get a lot of great coaching. And on top of that, we know that obviously you watch Arsenal this season, there are some Pep Guardiola fingerprints or Pep Guardiola-esque attributes to the side, should we say? And within that, I mean, I like to say obviously, but I think obviously you're going to be seeing that Pep Guardiola is at least passed some knowledge on of defensive midfielders, how important those guys are. We see how well Granit Xhaka and Partey have progressed under Arteta. Like, before, there was huge doubt over whether Partey should remain at the club, and obviously he was a new signing, but whether he really had like that ceiling that would take them to the Premier League title. A lot of people questioning what it was that they could bring in. And then secondly, whether Xhaka even had a future at the club in the first place, mostly down to his relationship with the fans, but also just down to this redemption that he was trying to earn from the fans. So I see a lot of pluses for the Declan Rice train. I also see that there's a lot of people who think that he wouldn't fit in at Arsenal as well as he would fit in at, say, at Chelsea, where apparently a lot of people say he had a lot of friends when he was a kid. He was alongside the likes of Mason Mount. He was alongside a lot of other young players. I think it was Reece James as well that was there as well. And he has a lot of Chelsea friends. You make friends very quickly when you sign as a big player for a club. I'd imagine that Declan Rice is quite an affable guy. He seems really good to have around. He also seems like a great media face, or at least someone who's kind of, a good face for the future of the England side. And certainly, I think, in terms of England progression, you're going to see him get a starting berth in this England team for a sustained amount of period, probably alongside a Jude Bellingham or someone like that, as long as both these guys, touch wood, stay fit and healthy. And the likelihood is if you go to a top side, you will do that, right? And you can clearly see, like, West Ham are waning at this point. Their window to strike is kind of closing. And I think in general, people probably understand that if you are going to move on, like Declan Rice is, he's probably done all he can at the club within this period. It's not to say that if he was to stay for another 10 years or whatever, he couldn't try and sustain a European place or something like that. But it's unlikely considering the amount of investment the side is currently getting compared to other teams. And also, if you're Declan Rice, you're probably evaluating that and saying, well, if an Arsenal are going to get way more investment, if Liverpool are going to get way more investment, if all these sides, there's only going to be a widening gap between the likes of a West Ham and whoever else it is in the Premier League at the moment. So that's going to be frustrating for him as well. You cannot fault him wanting to be a top player. You cannot fault him wanting to play at the very top level. And honestly, I don't think that you could probably fault him wanting to get the very top of the top coaching. So I'm making the case for Declan Rice to go to Arsenal. I think it's a good move. I think there are loads of other talented people, so I'd love to see who your guy is, who you want to sign. Bear in mind, it's probably that Arsenal need to sign a couple of players within the next few years. I know there's like a really exciting Arsenal academy player who seems to be just like dribbling and around everyone in every clip, but we know that doesn't happen in the Premier League. We know that's not necessarily like the only quality that people want, to be able to dribble around people, but there are some exciting Arsenal academy prospects, should we say, in this squad at the moment. So I'm excited, but I also think you need that experience. You need a strong English talent, someone who counts as homegrown as well, and someone also who clearly has a great personality and leadership qualities that I think if you've been in the media eye for a while, you probably need sort of drilled into you from a young age. Not that you have to be practicing them or showing them from day one, but there are certain personalities that suit this slightly better. Now, there might be fans out there that say, hey, Granit Xhaka and Partey are doing fantastic. Yeah, I agree. But I do think Arsenal, especially being a Liverpool fan, need to sustain this success in some fashion, and they need to bring in some variation, some young, hungry players. And Declan Rice fits the profile perfectly, especially considering what he's looking for in terms of a move. And I also think Arsenal need to capitalise while they're hot, while Newcastle aren't challenging at the very top of the league, while Liverpool are weak, while Spurs are perceived to be weaker, why Man City are in their fallow transition season, why all these different... Manchester United aren't even up at the top of the table right now, and yet they are pushing. They're one of the best sides in the Premier League at the moment. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Have a good day.